Hello everyone, welcome to this special edition of Carl's Bearded Banter. You can see from here, we've got my different logo on at the minute, rather than the one just at the bottom. I'm going to interview someone here. The guy's got a remarkable story to tell, as well as a remarkable moustache. So, without further ado, let's get on with the show. Hello everybody and welcome back. Please, let's everyone say a big welcome to Robert, our guest here. And as you can see, he's sporting a fantastic moustache there. Just a little note on that. Was it yesterday or the day before you actually won an online competition through Savvy Jack's Moustache Comp, I do believe?
That was yesterday. The championship finished up about 4 p.m. Eastern on Sunday with a 59.41%. So I squeaked it out. I was nervous all through Saturday into Sunday, but it went in my favor. So I'm very grateful.
The one to beat you've got there, mate. So well done on that. That's a fantastic moustache you got going. Well deserved of being on my page. In fact, it's quite embarrassing. I might do the rest of the show like this. Right. So why have I brought you here? Well, one was to say thank you. Was to say well done on your winnings there. But also, this quite an emotional story you've got to tell us here. Tuesday, the 27th, sees the 25th anniversary of the incident that we're going to talk about today. I'm sure it's still quite relevant to you and you know, strong in your mind. So before we go on to that, I would like to show everybody a little video that kind of explains what's happened, sort of thing.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We begin tonight at the nation's largest military base. Early this morning in the darkness and the fog at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, more than 1,000 soldiers were assembled for morning exercise when a sniper opened fire. In seconds, one serviceman, a major, was killed, 18 others shot and wounded. In Fort Bragg tonight, ABC's Mike Von Friend.
The gunman was hiding in these woods with an M16, a .22 caliber rifle, and a 9mm pistol. It was 6:30 this morning when he opened fire. 1,300 elite members of the 82nd Airborne were lined up in the middle of a football field, ready to begin a 4-mile run. A soldier who heard the shots in his barracks began videotaping the scene from his window.
Don't ask me what the hell's going on.
The soldiers on the field could not see into the woods because it was dark and the stadium lights were blinding them. They were in their exercise uniforms and none had weapons. 3 other paratroopers who were not part of the brigade happened to be passing by the stadium. It was a desperate fight, but the unarmed paratroopers captured the gunman.
I mean, after watching that clip back then, I'm sure you've seen it many times, but how did it make you feel re-watching that again? Does it bring it back to you, to the forefront?
Well, the first time I saw it was actually in the evening of October 27th. So after the events of the day, they, sent us home at the end of the day, and I was sitting at home, and my brother called me and told me to turn on the TV, and that was going on. And when it came on, I just kind of sat at my couch, and I was just shaking.
Yeah.
But for many, many years, I had told the story that I'm going to try to share with you.
Excellent.
Like 1,000 times. And to me, I now look back at it and think that I was telling it from the perspective of like, I had just watched my favorite movie and I was describing it, not like it happened to me, but like I could remember every detail.
Yeah.
So now it's a little different now, 25 years later.
Yeah.
You hear some of the screams, and even in that video, you heard one of the bullets whiz by off.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I was highly aware of that bullet whizzing past. I thought, what it must have been like to be there. Unbelievable. I mean, we can have a look at you. I think this was taken. Was it the same year?
Well, that was my basic training photo. That was 1994, Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I was 20 years old.
Wow. Very clean shaven as well, as you would expect in the service. Yeah. We've got this one here. I believe this was a unit that you was in at the time.
Yep, that was Bravo Battery, 3rd Battalion, 4th Air Defense Artillery Regiment, one of the oldest units in the United States Army at the time. They could trace their lineage all the way back to the American Revolution, where they ran some of the cannons on the ships.
Wow. Wow. Well, I better beware than being an Englishman. I better.
Yeah.
But okay, we'll have a look at some more photos I've got. I mean, this one's a poignant one, I do think. The memorial stone that's laid there, and with a tree, I assume, was planted. Is this where he fell, or is this outside the stadium that it was at?
No, so the stadium itself is in almost like a bowl, right? It's a football, soccer track field. And on 3 sides, it had like a hill going up. And in the back side was a fence and a bunch of woods. So this tree is at the top of one of the hills right next to the plaque that's dedicated to PFC Towle, a young man in World War II who was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor for valor and courage.
Oh, and then just so people can see this, and I think it's important to show everyone as well. Here's the actual stone close up. It reads, "In memory of Major Stephen M. Badger and all those who were wounded on the 27th of October, 1995.
Every year, I think the shooter kind of comes up for like a parole hearing. And the commander of the brigade that was there that morning, he's been to every one of these paroles. And I read an interview, I think at like the 20-year mark. And partly what they described for Major Badger was during the chaos, he and a couple of other soldiers turned to where they heard the shooting and started to head right towards it to, stop it, do something. And Major Badger was shot in the head and died instantly.
I mean, one of the things that I strike from it as well is, like you say, because you were in this stadium, you had the stadium lights on, so obviously everything behind it would have been obscured from you. You wouldn't be able to see what was going on. You'd have no idea sort of where it was. Obviously, you would from the sound, but you wouldn't be able to see that direction. So, it's quite a scary. Well, obviously, it's a very scary thing, but just the situation itself, it's just unbelievable. Right, I think I've interrupted you long enough. I'd like, if you want to tell your point of view, as long as you're okay with that, we'll just listen to it from your point of view. Okay.
So it was October 27th, 1995. I was in the Army, had been in the Army for a little over a year. I had been with my unit for about 4 months. And to set the stage a little bit, we had just gotten in a new soldier the night before. And so this was going to be his first day. My squad leader couldn't be there because he had staff duty. So he was going to be on that all night, wouldn't be there at the run. His last words to me was to take care of the new soldier, make sure that he got where he was supposed to, look after him, and, kind of just take care of him. So we got up that morning. I got up, made it to my unit just before 6 o'clock, I think it was. It might have been about 5:30. We formed up at our battery area, and battery is like a company, so we had about 70 some odd people. It was about 4 platoons. So from there, it was about a mile jog down to Towle Stadium. This was on Fort Bragg, Towle Stadium, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, 82nd Airborne Division. And this was my first ever mission assumption run. So what that meant was we had 6-week cycles that we did. It was about 3 of them. So we do a mission assumption, which was you were on a 2-hour recall. If they picked up the red phone and called and said there's something bad going on in the world, then we had to come in, get on a plane anywhere in the world in 18 hours. Then we also had like a support cycle and an intense training cycle, and it just kept rotating. And the way that they kind of celebrated kicking this off was they did like a 7-mile run. So we went down the road, made it up to the corner of Ardennes and Bastogne, and there was a gym up on the corner that led to Towle Stadium, which is like a soccer field surrounded by like a track. It was kind of down a hill a little bit, and we turned down the road, went through a little dirt path, and there was some woods on the right. We made our way onto the track and the soccer field. It was dark out that morning, a lot of bright stadium lights, and already there was a massive rectangular formation of this brigade, which was made up of about 1,300 paratroopers. It was almost 6:30, and on a military installation, about 6:30, they raised the flag, they play reveille, we all snap to attention, salute, and then we were going to kick off the festivities. So just before that happened, I'm standing with the woods behind me, and in front of me is 3 hills, and there's a small wooden podium and a small building right behind him, and then a break wall around the entire perimeter of the 3 hills. And since this was my first mission assumption, what I didn't know was normally we would be reversed. So the speaker would be with his back to the woods behind us, and we'd be up closer to the hillside. For whatever reason, this morning they did it where he was in front of us and our back was to the woods. So the brigade commander, Colonel Scroggins, he got up on the podium and he talked about how we were getting ready to take on mission assumption, what an honor this was, and how we were ready, and that we were going to have a good run. So he finishes up and he comes down the podium and he starts to make his way over to the track. And all of his command team started following behind him, and they had all of the flags from the different battalions making up this brigade. And as they were moving in front of us, they were going to go around the track and out the path that we had come in, go back up the road, and then we would start this run. And right about then, from behind us in the wood line, you heard pop, 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 pop. A rapid succession of these, little popping noises. And it sounded very similar to the M16 with a blank adapter that we used during training. So I immediately spun around to look behind us because, this was all new to me. It was my first mission assumption run. And I didn't see anybody in the woods. I'm looking around. And when I turned back around, everybody from this formation is laying on their stomach and they're low crawling. And I'm hearing everybody scream, low crawl, low crawl. So I lay down and I start low crawling on my belly, and I'm getting all dirty. And all of a sudden somebody screams, halt, halt, halt. So I popped up on one elbow and I'm trying to look behind me into the woods to see, where's this person running around with the M16 with the blank adapter. And, I'm thinking, because this entire brigade, it's an infantry brigade, I'm thinking they got somebody out behind us, popping blank rounds. They got us, getting all dirty. We're going to go on this motivational run. We're going to show everybody how hardcore we are because we're dirty, and they're doing this stuff. When all of a sudden, from kind of off in that direction, there's 2 guys kind of stepping over everybody who's laying down. And the guy in the front, he's pointing behind him and he's saying, like, Smithy got hit, Smithy got hit. And here's this guy behind him walking like this, and it looks like ketchup is coming out between his fingers. And I'm sitting there up on my elbow thinking, how crazy is this? They got somebody shooting blanks, they're getting us all dirty, and now they got guys with ketchup, right? So I'm thinking this is all just part of the show, part of the effects, my first mission assumption run. And that's when things changed. From behind us, there was some loud boom, 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 choo, choo, choo. And that's when the chaos kicked off. Everybody stood up and they started screaming and just stampeding. And I'm laying down and I jump up, and there's people running back and forth, and I knew something wasn't right. I was a young man, 21 years old, standing on this soccer field, and it sounded like bullets were going off behind us. And they were close. You could hear the bullets whizzing by. Now I'm looking around because I'm a young man. I'm very low in the military rank structure. My last command given to me by my commander was to halt. And as I look, he's gone. Everybody's starting to just run. There's people running this way. There's people running that way. They're screaming. They're stampeding. I look down and my brand new soldier that I'm in charge of, that I'm supposed to be looking out for, is laying on his stomach trying to get underneath of the turf, like a sea turtle burying its eggs. I didn't know what to do. Somebody needs to tell me what to do. I'm not supposed to move. I'm not supposed to do anything. That's the command structure. That's military discipline. And then another volley of shots rang out. Boom, 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 boom. And whizzing right by. And it's hard to describe. But when a bullet goes by in a crowd of 1,300 people, dressed in Army gray PTs, and we got these reflective belts on, and they're shining, and there's lights going off everywhere from these yellow reflective belts, like some weird kind of disco light. Every now and then, a bullet would make impact, and you could hear that noise, and somebody would scream out. And it's then that I knew I had to do something. So I went over and I stood over my soldier and I grabbed his shirt and I screamed as loud as I could, "Get up, get up." And I pulled him up. And as he stood, his legs just didn't want to work. So the only thing I could think of was to use my body as a shield. I didn't really know what was going on, but somebody was shooting real bullets. And about that time, more bullets went off, and a tracer round went so close to my leg that I could feel the heat from it. And if you don't know what a tracer round is it's got a burning tip so that when you shoot it at night, you can see the orange trail and keep your bullets on target as you're firing. One of those had passed right by my leg, and I remember watching it go by. This was like slow motion. And it hit off of the hillside and went up. And I thought that looked really cool. I mean, I still don't think I was registering what was going on, but we need to run. So as we started to run, and I'm pulling them this way and that way to try to avoid the people running, it was deafening. The chaos was so deafening. There were screams so loud that you couldn't think, you couldn't hear, and the feet hitting against the ground, and people running this way and that way. And I could see that people were trying to make their way up the hill over there. So I headed us towards that direction. And as we're running, some other bullets went off, and they went super close to us. And there was a point when I heard a scream, and I remember a guy grabbing his face, and it looked like a fan of red come shooting out from his face. And I kept running, and I ran right by him. And one of the things they teach us in the military is you never leave a buddy behind, a fallen soldier. And they teach you first aid. And I remember running by and just thinking I had to protect my soldier. I had to use my body as a shield. I wasn't afraid of being hit that day. I wasn't afraid of being injured, and I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of failing. I was afraid of protecting my soldier that day. It was my responsibility to make sure that he was safe, and that's what I was going to do. I wasn't going to stop. I wasn't going to do anything except for get up that hill. So we ran, and we avoided people, and we got to this hill. It was like a 2-foot break wall, and I threw him up. And as I jumped, more bullets went off, and another soldier right next to me went down. So I got on the hill, and I grabbed my soldier, and we ran to the top of the hill, and right across the street was my battery commander and our guidon, and they were waving the guidon, and my battery commander he lost it. He's just up there while everybody's running around and screaming and bullets are going off. He wants us to get in formation. So I pushed my soldier across, and I remember looking, and there's a dedication plaque, like 2 feet tall, and it's got the little thing on it that says this stadium is dedicated to PFC Towle, for, you know, valor and all the stuff that he did in World War II. And there was guys that were huddled up next to it, scrunched. And in the street, guys were laying on their stomach with their shoulders against the curb. And one of the guys, another guy from my unit was right next to me. And I said, hey, one of our guys went down. We got to go back down the hill. So he and I turned and we ran down the hill, and people are running up the hill past us, and we're dodging them. We go down, and there's that soldier laying on his stomach, and his arms are just splayed out. So we grabbed his arms, and we started running back up the hill, and we're dragging him. And all of a sudden, the arms yank out, and we hear, "What are you guys doing?" And we're like, "Didn't you get hit?" And this guy says, "No, I was jumping over the wall and I tripped, and I think I knocked myself out." So we stand him up and we grab him, and we run up the hill and we run across the road, and our battery commander he's going back and forth, and he's like, "Bravo battery, get in formation, Bravo battery, get in formation." So we're trying to stand next to each other and make sure we got the right distance, and more shots go off and there's more screaming. So we take cover behind a building. And there again, he's trying to get us into formation. He wants accountability. He wants everybody dressed right. So we're listening to our commander, and we're trying to do it. And all of a sudden, about 100 guys come around the corner, and they're screaming, "Here comes the shooter. Run." So right about then, we take off between the buildings. So we call them the breezeways. It's the back end of the buildings, and there's building after long building, and they've got dumpsters out there, and so we're hauling butt, and I mean, we're running fast. And poor guy down bearer, which is our unit flag, he's running, looking over his shoulder, just hauling butt, doesn't see the dumpster, runs right into the dumpster and breaks the guide on. So we turn around and we come back and we grab him and we pick him up, and he's seeing Tweety Bird circling his head. And we pick up the guide on and we start running, and we're hauling butt, and everybody we see outside, we're screaming, "Get back in, there's a shooter, there's a shooter." And we made it the mile back to our unit. And lo and behold, waiting on us is a guy by the name of Sergeant Bob Holberg. He was a bigger fella, and I think he was getting medically chaptered out of the Army. And he's huffing and puffing, and he says to us, "What took you guys so long?" And that was October 27th, 1995. It was not supposed to be like that. They didn't train us to be in gray PT shirts and shorts with reflective belts, standing on a field, what to do if you ever get shot at. So I want to say that through the midst of all of this, there was a medic unit that was making its way up top on Ardennes when the shooting started. And that entire company of medics, I think, are some of the bravest people ever. Unarmed, they ran down the hill through the gunfire to the 18 soldiers who were shot laying on this field, and they performed triage. So of that morning, 19 people were shot. So an SF team was making its way down Bastogne, and they heard the shots. It's not too uncommon to hear that on a military installation, shots off in the distance. They heard the roar of the men screaming and thought it was just us being motivational, getting pumped up. But when some of the rounds ricocheted off of objects near them, they knew something wasn't right, and they made their way into the woods and surrounded and converged on the shooter and stopped him. And to this day, I believe he's still serving a life sentence.
Well, listen, Rob, thanks very much for that. That was an amazing story to listen to. And it was even emotional for me listening to you tell it. I would like to, if you can send me your address on a private messenger. I won't send you out. It was a fantastic story. And for people that I interview on there, I do like to send out this Star Banter sticker for you, a golden sticker. That was an amazing story. So I'll send you one of them. And I'll also send you a nice, shiny Carl's Bearded Banter badge.
Oh, that's awesome.
And a new pin, mate, because it was a brilliant story. So I'll send them out to you as a thank you for coming on and joining us. Thanks for your time there, mate. I'll let you get off and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right.
Amazing story. Thank you, buddy. I'll see you later.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.